Hello and welcome to Sustaining the Flow, your water reuse podcast with me, Matt Hull.
And me, Guy Litton.
Each week we'll be covering a different topic around water reuse. So, what have we got coming up, Guy?
So this week we'll be looking at different systems and how they work and how they'll most benefit you in your company.
So, Guy, you obviously work with lots of companies every day, helping them to save water and meet their sustainability goals. Where can you collect from?
There's multiple areas. Obviously, rainwater harvesting, we always recommend the roof as your primary source. With grey water recycling, that's more so your wash hand basins, your showers, your baths. There are a few factors that you sort of need to think about. With grey water, your best case scenario is you've got somewhere that's got a high volume of people, but your roof area isn't as big. A good example of this being student accommodation.
Yeah, student accommodation is huge occupancies in a very dense area.
Exactly, especially if they're in cities as well. You've got people using the showers, using the wash hand basins on a daily basis. So perfect for grey water recycling. Another good one, a gym. That's probably where I'd more so start saying, okay, but let's combine with rainwater at this point. Because although the gym has quite a high footfall, not as high using showers, which would be a good source for grey water.
What my experience is, especially from like the marketing perspective and looking at delving into the keywords, what people are searching, very interesting. What we see is that there is actually a lot of confusion around the two terminologies of rainwater and grey water. And a lot of people think it is the same thing, but they are, in fact, two different collection sources.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of my job is sizing the system. The other part is deciphering, do they mean grey water or do they mean rainwater?
Yeah.
But it's easily confused with the terminology. The way we go down, obviously, your rainwater harvesting is sort of what it says on the tin. It's your collection from your rain into a storage tank, and then that's distributed around the building. Grey water is more so your wash hand basins, your showers, baths, more that kind of thing. So that's how we kind of differentiate it here. Yeah. And I think that is becoming more of an industry kind of thing as well. That separation between the two is becoming more well known.
Definitely. And obviously, grey water, it has got a few more things to consider in it, and that's why it does require a separate filtration method, if you like.
Yeah.
So those two technologies are separate. What kind of instances would you combine the two? Because you can combine them into one kind of overall water reuse system.
The storage is sized for 18-day storage, and that's what we expect to see through rainfall events. So 18 days rainfall event, another 18, another rainfall event.
Hard to believe in the UK.
Hard to believe, exactly. I mean, last year it felt like it was raining every day, and then we've got the weather like it is, and it feels like it's not rained in weeks. Yeah. So having that grey water as a backup is fantastic. When you're combining the two, always make your rainwater kind of your primary source if possible. Obviously, if the roof isn't big enough, then the roles almost switch. And then your grey water is almost like a guaranteed feed that you're going to get, day in, day out, depending on the occupancy of the building.
And obviously, difficult to retrofit as well. So always good to get these two technologies, if you are going to combine the two, in during the new build stage.
Yeah, and it's definitely a question we're getting more and more so, as I say, definitely these last kind of, I even say 6 months. What we're seeing is, right, we want to retrofit rainwater, we want to retrofit grey water, and like you say, it's a tricky process. It can be done, but obviously with tricky processes,
Cost.
Yeah,
retrofitting grey water with the dual collection pipe work, very difficult. Rainwater is a bit more simple, isn't it? Because it only requires the roof down pipes.
Exactly, and there's a system for that as well. So there's a system called a storm station, which is an above ground unit. It's essentially a container with all your controls, your booster set, your storage, your mains water top up, everything you need for rainwater harvesting. It's above ground, and it's the easiest way to retrofit within a building. With grey water, there is only kind of one style system in the industry, and it works in a similar way, all above ground, so it can be done. But like you were saying, it's the pipe runs and all the things associated with installing that. So get it in as soon as possible.
Definitely. That's always our message, isn't it? The key message. And like I say, always going to be retrofit opportunities. But if you're wanting to save that money and future-proof, always better to get it in at the new build stage.
And when we're looking at the new build stage, I suppose the question is, okay, I'm looking at a rainwater harvesting system. What do I need? What type of systems are out there? And I suppose with that, there are a few.
Yeah, there are different ways of achieving rainwater harvesting, right? There's not just one. And if you're a beginner to rainwater harvesting, that can be sometimes quite hard to grasp.
Yes, yeah, it can be, because you think it's kind of like a one system fits all, and this is what it is, but it's not. There's a lot more to it than that. Obviously, with the below ground works, the storage tank, nothing really changes in that area. It's more once the water becomes, okay, we're pumping it from that tank to an internal unit, to your points of use. That's kind of where your system, matters most, and that is different between all the different types of systems too.
Yeah.
So sort of a system that I don't see much very more. I can't say I quote it much or speak about it much with the clients I work with, but that'd be the pressurized system.
Quite an old school style.
It is, yeah, very old
achieving rainwater harvesting, and also not the best way.
That was on a lot of schools previously.
Yeah, a lot of schools, the pressurized style of system, because they're cheap. Pressurized style systems, there's less components in them. You've got a pressure vessel providing that capacity. Nothing wrong with doing that, by the way, but there are some warnings to be had with doing it that way.
Yeah, schools need a reliable system, and as reliable as a pressurized system is for smaller scale projects, so kind of you're looking at up to, I'd say 10 WCs max, and at a low usage is where its kind of sweet spot is. But at a school where you need a reliable system, and you need a system with fail safes. If there's no WCs, the school shuts and costs are incurred.
Massive headaches. You've got disruption to learning.
Exactly.
And that is a huge consideration.
Yeah.
I say the value in any arrangement of system, no matter which arrangement of system you go for, what happens when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Things go wrong in electrical and mechanical systems all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the value is how that's dealt with.
Yeah. What you need are fail-safes, and I suppose what we have learnt so much from within our maintenance team over these past 20 years is the importance of where your mains water supply goes, because ultimately that's your last line of defence.
Yeah. It's your automatic kind of fail-safe, isn't it? Yeah. When there's no rainwater available, whether it be low drought or a pump's failed in the underground storage tank, for example, what happens? We need that mains water to come on and be a backup.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that in a range of systems, two most popular being the non-pressurised with booster set. Obviously, historically, this was a system where you'd have your below ground tank and your submersible pumps would pump to a header tank, which would be in a loft space, hence the non-pressurised, and then it would gravity feed down to your points of use. What we see more so nowadays is people don't want a header tank in a roof space, because if there are any leaks, obviously that water is draining down through the building.
Yeah. And what's the important, so let's just say we have got a non-pressurised style of system, what is the importance of having that internal tank to people that are beginners of rainwater harvesting systems?
Yeah. So this header tank comes in many forms. So in this non-pressurised, it's a header tank, and this can range from as small as 100 litres, let's say, just for easy numbers, but then as big as 4,000 or 5,000 litres. Mm-hmm. And the reason this isn't the same size for all different types of projects is because this needs to be sized for its peak demand. So if we were serving, let's say, if we just keep using the example of a single living accommodation, a school. So at a school, lunchtime, that's when everyone's going to be going to the toilets. So the same with university accommodation. What we tend to do with its peak usage there is all the students, they wake up in the morning, most likely afternoon, and then go to the toilet, we say twice. And then the same with at night, before they go to bed. So twice. So that's a different demand, and that size is a different break tank.
And that's how you'd size it differently, right?
Yeah, exactly. And let's say a football stadium, we're not going to size it for the off season. It would be peak demand, half time on a match day where everybody goes. The importance of that is if it's not sized in peak demand, what's going to happen is it's going to be calling for your rainwater, it's going to be calling for your mains water. They're both filling the tank at the same time. And will that keep up with demand? Depending on the flow rates, yes, it potentially will. But obviously, going to be a lot of air bubbles creating. That's going to be pulled through a booster set. Can cause cavitation, all sorts of different sort of troubles that will then damage your system. If it's sized generically, then it might be that you've got the same system in a building that's serving 3 WCs as one that's serving 40, 50 WCs.
Not going to work.
And it's not going to work, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. And then there's going to be additional costs. There's going to be less saving in some instances.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly important that is something that isn't overlooked. Because like I say, I work with clients on a daily basis where they go, I've looked at the British standard. These are my calculations for the tank. What do you think? I'm like, yep. Spot on.
Perfect. You've got it perfectly
right. Happy days.
What are you missing?
And it's always the header tank, which we have that further conversation about. So it's definitely something that needs to be, questions need to be asked and more discussions need to be had.
So let's just say I would like the reliability and the water savings that are associated with a non-pressurised style of system, but I haven't quite got the budget for a non-pressurised style system. I also haven't got space within my plant room. We know that plant rooms are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Space on site is at such a premium, especially in these huge mixed-use developments in London, Manchester, Birmingham, your three big cities. So I can't have a non-pressurised system, but I'd like the reliability of it. But what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
So in that instance, what I'd do, and to be fair, what I'll probably do is probably push you more down this route before the non-pressurised, for kind of the reasons you've outlined, because these systems are great at saving space. Everything's in one compact unit, which is obviously favourable for maintenance teams, and that is the combi unit. Currently comes in 3 sizes, so we look at a 225 litre, a 400 litre and a 620 litre.
And what does that refer to?
So that refers to the brake tank size within the unit. So like I was explaining before with the backup for peak demand, that's where this comes in play. So obviously if we had less appliances, then you'd be closer to the 225 litre. If it was a bigger scale project, then you'd be looking more towards the 620.
It's a bit of a hybrid of the two, isn't it? The two different approaches. I mean, I like to think of it, it's like a mini non-pressurised style of system in a box.
Yeah.
So it's kind of modular.
Yeah,
in
no,
that sort of sense.
that's essentially what it is, And I say, in terms of saying, do you have a favourite system? Yeah, the combi, for those exact reasons. It's modular, it's a nice confined space. And, even from an aesthetic point of view.
Yeah, and the combi unit, that is actually the most common type of system in the UK.
It is.
Not underestimate that. Yeah. In most plant rooms that have rainwater harvesting systems, you will see a combi style of system, which is a hybrid of the non-pressurised and the pressurised.
Yeah, and I think that's unsurprising as well. Again, for the reasons you've outlined, small, compact, in plant rooms that are already packed to the brim, having something such as a combi style system where it's like, right, this is designed to fit through a doorway. We can just push it in, place it there.
Super simple to install.
Super simple. So for contractors as well, they're a blessing because obviously rainwater harvesting, same with grey water recycling, in the UK is relatively a new thing.
It's niche still.
Very niche, yeah. So again, a lot of questions from the various contractors thinking, right, how do I install this? And when you have a combi style system, it's always sort of like don't worry, it's as easy as this. And it's like, fantastic.
It might be slightly more costly than a pressurised system, but you're actually, as a contractor, going to save money on that install because you're hooking up a system that has essentially been pre-manufactured, right? So you're saving time on that install process and reducing scope for error.
And that's it. Less can go wrong. So just to sort of recap that, so with your rainwater harvesting, first system is pressurised, good for low-use buildings. But when you need reliability, I'd definitely look towards the combi system. The combi, it's reliable. As I say, if anything is to happen on the rainwater harvesting side of your system, you've got your mains water backup going directly to that unit. As I say, aesthetically, space, practicality, it ticks all the boxes.
That combi unit is the most actually versatile as well. It can cover and is designed to cover the majority of sizes and capacities in UK buildings.
And when you can't cover what the combi covers, that's when non-pressurised is a fantastic option.
Definitely.
Because it's completely customisable to that size of the building. Did one at a racecourse, for example, where there is going to be high usage. Fantastic.
Huge system. Huge capacities of water.
Yeah.
And that is where you can't have anything going wrong on an event day. You cannot risk that, and that's where then fail-safes come in.
No, absolutely. The queues are long enough for the toilets as it is. Last thing they need to do is wait on an engineer because we've got no water. Yeah. So reliability is key.
Yeah, no, it is so key. So obviously your combi, your non-pressurised and your pressurised, they're great. They all have their uses for your different types of buildings. We did very briefly touch on that storm station, that self-contained unit. What situations would you use that in?
So I'd say more so retrofits, but I mean, I suppose from a personal perspective, I quite like the system as a whole. For the same reason I like the combi. It's prefabbed. Everything's in one space. If you don't have enough room in your plant room, the storm station.
It's external.
It's external. It's already insulated. It's got everything you need. And it's also really good for branding. So you can have stickers on it. We've worked with clients where if you want to be seen as being sustainable, saving water, you can get a big sticker on the side, logos.
From a research and design perspective, that system was primarily designed for the retrofit market. Yeah. Let's not forget that. And very quickly, kind of a lot of clients saw the benefit of that and thought, oh, actually, I'd rather have this style of system on a new build because I don't have to excavate, which is really costly. I'm literally just plugging in the system, running a mains water pipe work into it, running your outlet pipe work, and then your inlet pipe work. It's done, and it literally just sits external to the building.
Yeah, exactly. If there's space for it, I definitely recommend looking into it. I don't see why you wouldn't. I don't see many sort of negatives as to why having an external unit, is a bad thing. Obviously, if you're in a city, I suppose. Yeah. You can't just have it on the pavement, people walking around, So there is a time and a place in terms of, do we have the space externally for it? But then equally, do we have the space internally for a unit as well? So there are all these sort of questions you kind of need to ask, which then do impact what style of system you have.
Exactly, yeah. And there are so many options, aren't there, that is applicable to different situations. So if we look at a supermarket, you could actually go with a combi style of system, or you could go with a storm station. Yeah. It depends on what the space requirements are, what the usage is, and what your personal goals are in terms of saving water, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. I suppose ultimately flexibility within the system can only be a good thing. Knowing that there are, there is a pressurised, there's the combi, there's an unpressed, there's a storm station, there are combined systems for greys. There's so many kind of opportunity to go, okay, so I know there are these different types of systems, but what's the best one for me? Well, we just need to think about where is the opportunity? Where is the feed coming from? Do we have a big roof area? Do we have a high demand? As long as we have these kind of key bits of information, which is essentially, in short, your yield and your demand potentials, then that helps narrow down systems to what would be best suiting.
Definitely, and we can help with all that, can't we? And it's what we do. There's not many types of buildings that we haven't seen
exactly.
Not helped out. There's so much to consider. Let's just do a little bit of a takeaway. Rainwater harvesting, when it goes mainstream in the UK, not if, when. What is your key takeaway in terms of, I'm a specifier, or I'm looking at this as from a sustainability point of view? What's the one thing I need to consider when I am designing these systems?
I'd say the main thing to consider initially is what type of building am I looking at? Am I looking at a building where reliability is key, like a school? Am I looking at something where there's going to be a high demand, such as a single living accommodation like in universities? Or am I looking at something where it's a wind farm, so it's going to be very infrequently used? And then when you're looking at these, you'd have an idea of your yield from your roof. Is it a large roof? Rainwater harvesting is going to be key here. So I think if you're really looking at optimizing water saving, then combined, again, is the way to go.
I think like all of them are great points. I'd say my main takeaway is don't be afraid to ask what's going to happen when things go wrong.
Oh, 100%.
You don't want to be getting 3 years down the line, that building is fully commissioned and the end user's jumping up and down because the system's got no water to the points of use. Always at the design stage, ask what is going to happen when things go wrong in that system. Are there the right fail-safes in place? And they're two takeaways that you can use in every day when you're designing these systems. So I hope you're still with us, and I hope we've not blown your mind too much about all of the technical side of rainwater harvesting and some of the key considerations there. We've still got so much to cover in terms of where the industry is going, what are the different types of systems in terms of non-household and residential. So what are we going to be covering, Guy?
Next time, we'll be looking at the communal system. We're looking at sizing that, how it works, and how it's best going to benefit yourself, but also the community that will be living within those developments.
In the meantime, if you have got any questions or if you want to find out more, it's always best to visit our website, www.stormsaver.com, or you can get in touch with us directly.